Hello, and welcome to the Home Designer Bootcamp webinar. My name is Kelly, and I will be teaching the class today. I want to start by saying thank you for taking the time to attend this class and to learn more about Home Designer. If you already own Home Designer, feel free to follow along with me during the class. If you don't have a copy of Home Designer, you can download a free trial from our website at homedesignersoftware.com. This class is designed for people who are new to Home Designer and are not sure where to get started. This includes people who just bought the program or people who are using the trial version. I'm going to start this class at the very beginning, creating a brand new plan. From there, I'll move on to drawing walls, creating multiple floors, generating different roof styles, as well as placing cabinets and other objects into the plan. When you've finished watching this class, you should have a good idea of how Home Designer works to create your own custom designs. Let's go ahead and get started. When you first launch Home Designer, you'll be presented with a dialog asking for which measurement units you will be working in, as well as what style of housing you're designing. These style templates have different preset styles for cabinets, doors, and windows, as well as preset materials for floors, ceilings, and walls. Clicking on each template will show you a small preview of how the different styles change. As I'll show you throughout this video, the style templates are simply starting points and can be customized to make it fit your design. For this video, I'm simply going to choose US units and default style, then click OK. This is the main drawing and editing window for Home Designer. You'll notice the menu bar across the top with several different drop-down menus. These menus give you access to different features in the program. The File menu is where you can start new plans, open existing plans, save and print your work. The Build menu is where all of your drawing tools are. This includes all of your wall, window, and door tools, among other things. One of the most important menus in the whole program is the Help menu. This menu gives you access to different resources to help you learn how the program works. The first option under the Help menu is Launch Help. This will launch the built-in help for Home Designer. This is an exhaustive help document that covers every tool available in Home Designer and how it works. This includes a built-in search to find specific topics you're wanting to know more information about. The View User's Guide option will open a PDF in your default PDF viewer. This is a tutorial guide designed to walk you through creating a house in Home Designer from start to finish. The User's Guide will go into a lot more detail for the topics I cover in this video. It is highly recommended you look at the User's Guide after watching this video. The View Reference Manual option will open a PDF version of the built-in help. This is great if you'd like to print off a physical copy of the help to take notes and such in. I prefer using the built-in help with its search function. The View Online Help Videos option will take you to the over 500 training videos we have available for Home Designer. These videos are made available for free on our website to help you get up and running quickly. Below the menu bar is the toolbars. Many of the features of the program you can access through the menu bar are available in the toolbars. These include things like saving and printing plans, accessing the help through the question mark icon, navigating between floors, and creating new camera views. The second row of tools in the toolbars is the most commonly used tools for building your model. These include drawing walls and railings, placing doors, windows, cabinets, and stairs, as well as creating additional floors in the model. These tools in the toolbar are parent tools of different child tools. For example, if I click on the Wall tool, notice in the window on the left of my screen the list of child tools appears. This window is known as the Tool Palette, and it is designed to display the child tools of the parent button I've selected. I'm going to select the Exterior Wall tool. Next, I'm going to click and drag to draw a new wall. The click and drag action is one of the actions you will use most often when creating things in Home Designer. Simply click and hold down with your left mouse button, then move or drag your mouse in the direction you want to draw the wall. Release your left mouse button, and the wall is drawn. Once I've drawn this wall, I'm going to click on it once with my left mouse button. Once I do that, there are now some buttons on the toolbar at the bottom. This toolbar is known as the Edit toolbar. This toolbar shows tools that allow you to make changes to whatever object you have selected. This toolbar is context sensitive. That means based on which object you have selected, you're going to have different tools available. One tool every object has in Home Designer is the Open Object button. That's the open door icon on the Edit toolbar. This button allows you to open the specification dialog for whatever object you have selected. This dialog is how you make more changes to the selected object than what is available on the Edit toolbar. Dialog boxes are broken up into 2 and sometimes 3 different sections. The list on the left is the list of panels in the dialog. For example, the roof panel is one of the panels available in the wall specification dialog. The middle section is the area where you can change settings for each of these panels. Notice how changing from one panel to another allows you to change different settings. In most, but not all dialog boxes, there will also be a preview window on the right-hand side of the dialog box. As I make changes in the dialog box, the preview window will update to display how the object will change. For example, in the General panel, if I change from the Siding 6 wall type to a Brick 6 wall type, notice how the preview updates to show the changes. One other thing to mention about the dialog box is every dialog box has a help button in the lower left corner if you're using Mac OS, or in the lower right corner if you're using Windows. When you click on the help button, the built-in help window will appear to show you the help for this particular dialog window you have open. Clicking on the help button in this case will bring up the help for the walls dialog box. I'll go ahead and close the help window and then click OK to close the wall specification dialog. The window on the right-hand side of the screen is the library browser. This window lists different library objects you can use in your Home Designer plans. You can use the search function at the top to search for different objects in the library, or you can use the tree view to navigate through different folders to find an object to place in your plan. The first step when creating a model is to draw the exterior shell of the first floor. Even though most construction projects start with the foundation, Home Designer starts with the first floor. Every other floor that gets drawn will be based off the shape of these exterior walls. As I mentioned previously, drawing a wall is done by selecting the Wall Parent tool, choosing the Exterior Wall tool, and then clicking and dragging in the drawing area. I'm going to draw the wall to something close to the dimension I want, but I'm not concerned about getting the exact dimension. The main priority is I want to draw the exterior shell of the house in the correct shape. I'm not concerned with dimensions and wall lengths just yet. Once I've drawn one wall, I'll put my mouse on the end of the wall I've drawn and click and drag to draw my second wall. Again, I'm not concerned with the length of the wall yet, I just want to get the exterior shell shape correct. I'll continue to draw the rest of the exterior walls of my plan. Once I create an enclosed space in Home Designer, notice how dimensions appear around the exterior walls of the model. These are called automatic exterior dimensions. We can use these automatic dimensions to get our walls the exact lengths we want them to be. To do this, I'll select the wall first, then click on the dimension. When I do this, I'll get a text box that appears that I can use to type in a new dimension. Now, while this works well, it can sometimes cause issues later when trying to dimension interior walls. I recommend using the associative dimension to change the wall dimensions. What this looks like is instead of clicking on the wall I want to change the length of, I'm instead going to click on the wall I want to change position. For our example model here, I know I want this top wall to be 42 feet long. This could also be said as I want the right-hand wall to be 42 feet away from the left-hand wall. So I'll click on the right-hand wall, then click on the length of the top wall. I'll get that dialog box again, and I can type in the 42-foot value and press enter on my keyboard. The right-hand wall will now move to be 42 feet away from the left-hand wall, and the top wall now has a length of 42 feet. Using this same process, I want to set the length of the right-hand wall to be 38 feet 4 inches. To do that, I'll click on the bottom wall, then click on the length of the right-hand wall, type in my 38 feet 4 inch value, and press enter on my keyboard. And the bottom wall is moved to be exactly 38 feet 4 inches away from the top wall. I'll use this same process to set the correct lengths for the rest of the walls in my model. So far, I've talked about setting wall lengths, but what about wall heights? Instead of thinking of individual wall heights, Home Designer thinks in terms of ceiling heights for the rooms. What I mean by that is if I click in the middle of this room, notice it highlights and I have the Open Object button on my Edit toolbar. I've selected the room object. Room objects get created when you create an enclosed space with walls. As soon as you connect walls together to create an enclosed space, a room gets created with a floor and ceiling platform as well as a floor and ceiling height. I'll click on the Open Object button to open the room for specification. The General panel allows me to set a room type which can change some properties about a room. We'll look more into that later in this video. On the Structure panel, you can see how high the walls are for this room. The ceiling value for this room is the height of the walls. The way Home Designer works is you set a ceiling height for a room and the walls rise up to meet that ceiling height. Different rooms can have different ceiling heights, in which case the walls in between the rooms will rise up to meet the higher ceiling height. Notice there are two different sections of heights: absolute elevations and relative heights. The absolute elevations are elevation values relative to the top of the subfloor of floor 1. The relative heights are relative to the floor that you're on. The rough ceiling value is the height of the ceiling platform above the floor platform for the floor you're currently on. The finished ceiling value is how high the bottom of the drywall of your ceiling is from the top of the floor finish of the floor that you're currently on. In the case of the plan we're working with, I want my finished ceiling value to be 95 5/8 of an inch, or 8-foot ceilings. So I'll change the finished ceiling height value to 95 5/8 of an inch, and then press the Tab key on my keyboard. Notice the preview on the right-hand side of the dialog box didn't update until I pressed the Tab key, but now it's updated to show me the ceiling heights with the new values. Now that I've made my changes, I'll go ahead and click OK, and my walls are now updated with their new ceiling heights. Now that we have our ceiling height set properly, we can start detailing the interior of the model using our interior walls. To do this, I'm going to click on my Wall Tools parent button, then click on the Straight Interior Wall tool. I'll then click and drag to draw a wall straight across the entire plan. When I connect the walls together, I'm dividing the original room into two separate rooms. If I click in the top area, it selects the top room but not the bottom room. Each room also has its own specifications, so you can customize it to be what you want it to be. Now I'd like this interior wall to be drawn on the center of the wall I've drawn it on. To do this, I'm going to select the wall, and then down on the Edit toolbar is the Center Object button. I'll click on that button and then move my mouse into the drawing area. As I do that, you'll notice objects highlight and there will be a large dashed line on those highlighted objects. This is the centering line, or the dashed line is where the center of the wall I originally selected is going to go. So I'm going to move my mouse so this wall is highlighted and the dashed line is going through the wall. Once the dashed line is in the correct spot, I'll simply click and the wall will be moved to the proper position. Once I've moved that wall to the proper position, I'll use my Interior Wall tool to detail more rooms in this house. I want to designate this area as a garage, and I want to continue the exterior wall through the back of the garage. I can click on the exterior wall, and when I do that, there are some edit handles that show up. These are the squares in the middle and on the ends of the wall. I can use these handles to change the length of the wall or move it. If I put my mouse over this top edit handle at the edge of the wall and then click and drag, I can stretch it out to meet the wall that's at the back of the garage. I'm going to take a dollhouse camera view to look at my plan. To do this, I'm going to click on my Camera Tools parent button on the toolbar, and then click on the Dollhouse View camera. This will automatically generate a camera view looking at my house without a roof or ceiling on it, so I can see into the interior of my model. When the camera activates, I'll also have the Mouse Orbit Camera tool activated. This tool allows me to click and drag to move around my model. I'll click and drag around to look at the wall I just drew. You'll notice at the top of the screen I have two different tabs. On Mac OS, they're on the center of the screen. On a Windows system, the tabs are to the left of the screen. You can use these tabs to switch between plan view and camera views. I can also tile these views to be side by side. To do that, I'm going to go to the View menu and click on Tile Vertically. This will allow me to see both my plan and my camera view side by side. I want to change this garage wall so there's no siding on the inside of the house. But when I select the wall in plan view, the entire wall is selected. In order to remove the siding from the inside of the house, I need to break the wall into two different wall segments. I'm going to do this by going down to the Edit toolbar and clicking on the Break button. This will allow me to take one wall and break it into two separate segments. I'll click where I want to put the break, in this case right at this wall intersection. Now that I have two different wall segments, I'll select the top wall segment and open it for specification again by clicking on the Open Object button on the Edit toolbar. On the General panel, I'll change the wall type from Siding 6 to Interior 6 and click OK. Once I do that, you'll notice in my 3D camera view, I now no longer have siding inside the house. I've now drawn all of my interior walls. I can start using interior dimensions to move these walls to the proper location, just like I did with my auto exterior dimensions. To do this, I'm going to manually draw some interior dimensions for these walls. I'll go to the Dimension Parent tool, and I'll use the Interior Dimension tool. This tool will dimension the interiors of rooms. I'll start with my mouse above this room and click and drag all the way through this room down past the bottom. Once I have a dimension on my screen, I'll release my mouse and the dimension will be made. I don't have to draw just one dimension either. I can draw entire dimension strings. Again, using the Interior Dimension tool, I can click and drag from outside this wall all the way through the entire model. I'll go ahead and draw the additional dimensions for the plan. Now that I've done that, I can start moving my walls to the proper position. I want to start with this room on the left and work my way across the model. I want to take the top wall of this room and move it to be 11 feet 5 inches from the exterior wall at the bottom of the room. But I don't want to move the entire wall, I just want to move the wall segment for this room. Notice if I select the wall, the entire wall gets highlighted just like with our garage wall that we saw earlier. Again, I'm going to break this wall into two separate wall segments using the Break Wall tool. I'll click on the wall, then click on the Break Wall tool in the Edit toolbar, then put a break at this intersection point. Once I've made my different wall segments, I'll again click on the wall I want to change position, click on the dimension and change that value to be 11 feet 5 inches and press enter on my keyboard. The selected wall has now moved to the proper position. I'll go ahead and do this with the right-hand wall of this room as well. I'll select the wall I want to move, then click the dimension and change it to the distance I want, in this case 13 feet. I want the next dimension to be 12 feet 7.5 inches, so I'll click on the dimension and type in a new value and press enter on my keyboard. Now notice when I did that, the dimension now says 12 feet 7.5 inches, and the wall did move, but notice what happened to our 13-foot dimension. It's no longer 13 feet. This is because we had the same wall selected to move when we changed the dimension value. It's important to know that once you have a wall set in the proper position, you select the next wall to change that dimension. I'll go to the Edit menu and click the Undo button to undo that move. Now that I've done that, instead of having the original wall selected, I'll select the next wall in the dimension line, and then I'll change the dimension to 12 feet 7.5 inches and press enter on my keyboard. The first wall we moved is still in the same position, but the selected wall has now moved to be 12 feet 7.5 inches from that wall. I'll use these same skills of the Break Wall tool and the Dimension tools to get all of the rest of the walls into the proper position. In the entry area, I want to make a coat closet. To do this, I'm going to select the wall, add a break at this intersection, then I'm going to use the top edit handle to drag the top of this wall down away from the wall it was connected to. Next, I'll click on the Walls Tool Parent button, then choose the Straight Interior Wall tool. I'll click and drag to draw a new wall to complete the closet. I'll then use my Interior Dimension tool to draw an interior dimension in the closet and set this wall to be 7 feet away from the exterior wall. The last thing to do is open the back wall of the entry area. I want to keep the two rooms defined as two separate rooms, a dining and an entry area, but I want to have it appear to be open between the two of them. To do this, I'm going to select this wall, then I'm going to click on the Make Invisible button down on the Edit toolbar. This will make it so that the wall is still there, dividing the two rooms, but the wall does not show up in 3D. You can see this in my 3D view. Now that I've defined all my rooms, I can label each room for what type of room it's going to be. I can select a room, open it for specification by clicking on the Open Object button, then changing the room type on the General panel. I'll click OK, and now the label for the room will display in Plan View. Some different room types bring some different properties for them. For example, if I select this room and change it to a garage room type, notice what happens to the floor. It changes from a wood flooring type to a concrete floor like you would see in a garage. I'll go ahead and label the rest of the rooms in my plan. Next, we'll create a basement. To do this, I'm going to go to my Floor Tools parent button, and then I'll click on Build Foundation. In the dialog that comes up, notice first the Automatically Rebuild Foundation checkbox is checked. That means as you're making changes to the plan, Home Designer is keeping the foundation up to date with the rest of the house. So as I move walls around or change room types, Home Designer is rebuilding the foundation to match the changes I've made. The foundation type options give us options for walls with footings or a monolithic slab. You can choose the foundation type that matches your area. For this project, since we want to have a full height basement, I'm going to choose the walls with footings option. Below are the options for wall type and wall height. I'll use the default 8-inch concrete stem wall, but there are several options available. The wall height value is like the ceiling height value we saw when we were looking at our room specification. The difference is this value also includes the thickness of the 4-inch slab on the floor. That means if I want an 8-foot tall ceiling in my basement, I would need to set this wall height to be 100 inches. I will set that for the wall height and click OK. The program now shows me what my foundation looks like. Notice that I'm not seeing the walls from my first floor. This is because I'm on the foundation floor. You can tell this if you look at the toolbars and notice the floor number is currently set to 0. This shows what floor level I'm on. I can use these arrows to the left and right of the number to navigate between the floors. Back on floor 0, I want to create a crawl space for part of my basement and a full height basement for the rest of it. In order to create a crawl space, I need to create a separate room. But I want this room to be in a specific location relative to the first floor. I want this wall that I'm going to draw to be lined up exactly with a wall on the first floor. To do this, I'm going to turn on my reference floor display. When I click on it, this shows me the walls of the first floor outlined in red on the floor that I'm currently on. To draw a crawl space, I want to draw a foundation wall underneath this wall. To do this, I will select my Wall Tools parent button, then choose Straight Foundation Wall. Then I'll click and drag to draw my foundation wall. As soon as I click to draw this foundation wall in, Home Designer asks a very important question. Do you want Home Designer to stop automatically rebuilding the foundation? Since I'm manually drawing walls in now, I do want Home Designer to stop rebuilding the foundation, so I'll click the Yes button. I'll click and drag to draw the foundation wall in place. I want this wall to be exactly aligned with the wall above it. If I click on the wall I just drew, you'll notice down on the bottom toolbar, there's a button for Align with Wall Above. That means this wall is close to but not exactly aligned with the wall above it. If I click on that button, Home Designer will move that wall to be exactly aligned with the wall above it. The important thing to know is that button only shows up when the wall is close but not exactly aligned with the wall above. If the walls are perfectly aligned, or if the walls are too far apart to be aligned, then the Align with Wall Above button won't display on the Edit toolbar. Now that I've created a room for my crawl space, I want to select the room and open it for specification. Since this is a crawl space, I want it to be open to dirt instead of having a slab underneath it, so I'm going to change this room type from unspecified to open below. This is a special room type that automatically removes the floor platform from the room. Since I want to identify this as a crawl space, I'm going to change the room name from open below to crawl space. Next, I'm going to go to the structure panel. I'm going to change the stem wall height from 100 inches of my full height basement to 36 inches for my crawl space. Once I've typed that value in, I'll press the Tab key on my keyboard, and the preview on the right will update to show my changes. Once I've done that, I'll click OK, and my foundation will have updated. You'll notice my dollhouse view is currently still showing my first floor. The floor information is set in each individual view. This means that in order to see what my foundation looks like in a 3D view, I'll need to click in my camera view to activate it. Then I can use the floor controls to change from the first floor to the foundation and see how it's built. From here, I want to create a second floor. Just like we did with our foundation tools, I'm going to go back to the Floor Tools parent button, but instead of clicking on Build Foundation, I'm going to click on Build New Floor. In the window that comes up, I'll choose the option of Derive New Second Floor Plan from the first floor plan. This means that the exterior walls of the second floor will automatically be built and aligned exactly with the floor below it. Even if the first and second floors aren't exactly the same shape, I recommend choosing this option. This will ensure that any walls that are aligned between the second floor and the first floor are properly aligned, and you won't have to worry about adjusting or aligning them yourself. If you need to adjust the walls after they've been generated to change the shape to match what you want, you absolutely can. I'll go ahead and click OK on this dialog. The next dialog that comes up is very important. This is asking how high is the ceiling going to be on the second floor. This is the starting point for any rooms that get drawn on the second floor. If I wanted to change this value to a different value, I could, but I will leave it at the standard 8-foot ceiling height and click OK. Home Designer has now generated a second floor in the exact same shape as the first floor. I do want to make some changes to my second floor though. I don't want to have a second floor over my garage, so I'll select this wall and use the Move Edit handle in the middle of the wall to click and drag it back in line with the other wall on the second floor. I also want to draw an interior wall in line with the wall below on the first floor. Because I still have my reference floor display active, I can still see the outline of the first floor in red lines. I'll click on the Wall Tools parent button and choose my Straight Interior Wall tool. Then I'll click and drag to draw in the interior wall. Next, I'll click on the wall I just drew to verify it's aligned with the wall below it. I'll click on the Align with Wall Below button to have Home Designer align the walls properly. Again, if I don't see the Align with Wall Below button, that means the wall is perfectly aligned with the wall below it, or the walls are too far apart for Home Designer to think they should be aligned. Now that we've built multiple floors, we need a way to get between each of those floors. Home Designer has some excellent tools for building stairs in your model. Keep in mind that stairs are always drawn from the lower floor to the upper floor, so if I want to get from my first floor to my second floor, I will want to draw the stairs on my first floor. To build stairs, I'll simply click on the Stair Tools parent button and then click on the Draw Stairs tool. If I want to draw a straight set of stairs, I can simply left-click inside the room, and Home Designer will automatically draw a straight set of stairs that reach from the current floor up to the floor platform of the floor above. If I select the stairs and open them for specification, the very first line in the general panel tells me the stairs reach the next level. Below that is more information about the stairs, including riser height and the number of risers. I'll go ahead and click OK. If I want to create a set of stairs that weren't straight but were L or U-shaped, I can use the L and U-shaped stairs tools. When I click on the L-shaped stair tool, I'll get a dialog asking which direction I want the stairs to go. I'll also get the option to make the corner winders instead of a landing. I'll leave it at the default for now and click OK. Notice as I move my mouse around, the outline of the stairs is following my mouse. As I get closer to a wall, you can see how the up arrow changes position relative to the walls. Once I have my stairs in the position I want them and going in the direction I want them to go, I can simply click to place the stairs. Back in our plan, I want to start by building stairs from the garage slab to the first floor platform. Home Designer will automatically detect the different floor platform heights and build the correct set of stairs for me. All I simply need to do is click on my Stair Tools parent button, click on the Draw Stairs, and then click where the stairs would be between the garage and the first floor, and Home Designer will automatically place the correct number of stair treads. To draw stairs from the first floor up to the second floor, instead of clicking to place the stairs, I'm going to click and drag to draw a set of stairs. I'll move my mouse to where I want the stairs to start and click and drag to draw a small set of stairs. I'll select these stairs I've drawn and open them for specification. You'll notice the stair dialog says that the staircase does not reach the next level. There's a button on the dialog that says Make Best Fit. If I click on this button, Home Designer will automatically adjust the stairs to make them fit correctly. Once I've done that, I can click OK and my stairs will be drawn. If I wanted to look at this in a 3D view, I can click on my Camera View Tools parent button and then click on Full Camera. Next, I'll click where I want the camera to be placed and drag in the direction I want the camera to be looking. Once I release my mouse, Home Designer will generate the camera view. You'll notice in the camera view that I don't have an opening to the floor above. Home Designer has a tool to automatically generate a hole in the platform above. To activate it, I first need to select the stairs. I could go back to Plan View to select the stairs and generate the hole, or I can do it in the 3D view. When I first create a 3D view, as I mentioned previously, I'm using the Mouse Orbit Camera tool, which helps me navigate around the 3D view by clicking and dragging. If I want to select the stairs, I first need to change to the Select Objects tool. This is the icon in the upper left-hand corner of the toolbar that looks like the mouse pointer icon. When I click on that, I will no longer be in the Mouse Orbit Camera tool, and I can then click on the stairs. Once I've selected the stairs, down on the Edit toolbar is a tool called Auto Stairwell. Once I click on that tool, Home Designer will automatically make a stairwell open to the floor above in the shape of my stairs. Since I'm still using the Select Objects tool, I can't rotate around in my 3D view. But back in my toolbar, I can click on the Move Camera with Mouse Parent tool, then click on the Mouse Orbit Camera tool, and I can move my camera around again. Back in Plan View, if I look up on the second floor, you'll see I have a stairwell room that was created to match the shape of the stairs below. So far, we've constructed the shell of our model, multiple floors, and ways to get between each of those floors. Next, we'll focus on adding doors and windows to our plan. As you see, I've drawn this plan without any gaps for doors or windows in the walls. Each wall is completely connected to the other walls. This is because Home Designer will automatically create an opening in the walls for any door and windows I place in the plan. To place a door, I'll simply click on my Door Tool parent button and choose the Hinge Door tool. Notice as I move my mouse around, I get an outline of the door in the wall. Doors and windows can only be placed in walls. If you're using the Door tool and your mouse is not on a wall, you won't see the outline of a door in your plan. Once I've found the place I want my door to go, I can simply click to place a door. To change the hinge or swing side of the door, I can single click on the door and click on the Change Hinge Side Edit button or the Change Swing Size Edit button on the Edit toolbar. Changing a door from a single to a double door is done by selecting it and then using the side edit handles to make it wider. Once the door passes 4 feet wide, it automatically switches from a single to a double door. If I have a specific door width in mind, I can open the door for specification and change the width to what I want it to be. For this door, I want it to be 6 feet wide. I also want to change the style of this door. Instead of the default door, I want this to be a glass panel door. I'll choose glass panel from the door style drop-down menu, Then I'll click OK, and my door will be updated to be a glass panel double door. I want to create side lights on my entry door. I'll use the Fixed Door tool to do this. I'll select my Door Tool's parent button and then click on Fixed Door. I'll move my mouse to right next to the entry door so the outline of this fixed door bumps right up against the entry door. Then I'll click to place it. I'm going to select the door and open it for specification. I'll set the width to be 18 inches, then I'll go to the Lights panel and add 5 vertical lights, and then I'll click OK. I want to place another fixed door that's exactly the same as the one I just placed. I can either place a new fixed door and modify it to match the one I placed a moment ago, or I can place a copy of the existing fixed door on the opposite side of my entry door. To do this, I'll single click on the fixed door and click on the Copy Paste button. Then I'll click on the opposite side of the entry door close to where I want this fixed door to be placed, and I can use my mouse to move it into its final position. To place windows, I'll select my Window Tool parent button and then click on the Window tool. Then, just like with doors, I'll click where I want the window to be placed in the wall. I want to customize this window a bit, so I'll open it for specification. I'll change the width to be 30 inches and the height to be 60 inches. I also want to add some lights to this window, so I'll go to the Lights tab and add 3 lights across and 2 vertical lights. Once I've done that, I'll click OK to update my window. Now, I want every window to be exactly the same as the window I've just modified. While I could place each window, open it up, and then make the proper changes, that will add a lot of time to my drawing process. Instead, I can change the default window that gets placed, so every new window I place in the plan will be the same as the one I just modified. To do this, I'm going to go to the wrench icon in my toolbar to open my default settings. Default settings are a starting point for the items you place in your plan. You can customize the starting points for your cabinets, doors, wall types, and many other things. While it's possible to change the defaults after you started drawing, it is typically recommended to set your defaults first before you start drawing. The other thing to note is that defaults are specific to the plan you're working on. When you create a new plan file, it will not have the default settings you set in this current plan. Since I'm wanting to customize my windows, I'll open the window default and make the same changes I made before. I'll leave the window type as a double hung window. I'll set the width to be 30 inches and the height to be 60 inches. I'll go to the Lights tab and add 3 lights across and 2 lights vertical. And then I'll click OK and done. Now, when I go to place a window, it will match the window set in my default settings. A thing to always remember is that default settings are a starting point. You're not stuck with them after you've set them. What I mean by that is if I place a window in the kitchen area here, I will want this window to be over the kitchen sink. This will not be the same window as my other windows. So I can open this window for specification, set the width to be 28 inches and the height to be 36 inches. Change the window type from the default to a single casement. I will use the Center Object tool to center this window on the kitchen room, and then I'll make 2 copies of the windows and place them on either side of the centered window. Now, even though I've changed this window on the kitchen, the next window I place will still match the default settings for the plan. I'll come to the dining room and place 3 default windows close together. I'll place the first window and then use the window outline to place the other window right next to each other. Now that I've placed each of these windows, I want to center all 3 of these windows in the dining room. To do this, I'm going to select one window, hold down the Shift key, and click on the next 2 windows. Doing this will group select the other 2 windows so I'll have all 3 windows selected. Once I have them selected, I can click on the Center Objects Edit tool and center the windows on the dining room. Home Designer automatically builds roofs as soon as you create a room. By default, it will build a hip roof. You can see the shape of the roof by the green dashed roof plane lines. The default pitch for the roof is an 8 and 12 pitch. To change the default pitch, you can go to the Roof Tools parent button and click on Build Roof. The pitch value is the default value for all roof planes. Changing it and clicking OK will change the pitch of your roof planes to the new value. For now, I'm going to leave it at 8 and 12. The thing to keep in mind when working with roofs is the wall is what controls how the roof builds over it. If I want to change how the roof is built, I need to open the individual walls and make changes on the roof panel. For example, if I want to change the roof on this house to a gable roof, I'll select one of these side walls and open it for specification. I'll go to the roof panel and change the roof type from hip to full gable wall. As soon as I click OK, Home Designer automatically changes the roof built over that wall from a hip roof to a gable roof. Another way I can change a wall into a gable wall is to select it and then click on the Change to Gable Wall button on the Edit toolbar. This is a quick way to change a wall to a gable wall without having to open it for specification. You can create several different roof styles using the available settings in the walls. For example, if I wanted to create a Dutch gable roof, I'm going to group select the two side walls by clicking on one wall, holding down the Shift key on my keyboard, and then clicking on the other wall. With both walls selected, I can click on the Open Object button to edit both of these walls at the same time. I'll click on the roof panel and change the walls from full gable walls to Dutch gable walls, and then click OK. Home Designer has now updated my roof to a Dutch gable roof style. To build a shed-style roof, I'll again open the two side walls and change them from Dutch gable walls back to full gable walls. Next, I'll select this top wall and change it from a hip wall to a high shed gable wall. Once I click OK, you'll notice the pitch of this roof plane is really steep. To change the pitch, I'm going to select this bottom hip wall. Then I'm going to go to the roof panel where I can change the pitch to something other than the default. I'll change it from 8 and 12 to 3 and 12 and click OK. Changing the pitch on the hip wall is going to change the pitch of the roof plane built over it. Back in our project, we want to build a gable on both sides of the house on the second floor. So on floor 2 on our plan, I'll select one wall, hold down the Shift key on my keyboard, and click on the Change to Gable Wall button on the Edit toolbar. This will change both of those walls to a gable wall. Down on floor 1, I want to make my garage roof slightly different from the rest of the roofs. I do want a gable on the front of the garage, so I'll select the front wall and click on the Change to Gable Wall button. But instead of having a pitch of 8 and 12, I want this roof to be a 4 and 12. I also want them to have 8-inch overhangs instead of the default 18 inches overhang. To do this, I'm going to select each of the side walls of the garage and open them for specification. I'll click on one wall, hold down the Shift key and click on the other wall, then click on the Open Object Edit button. On the roof panel, I'm going to leave the walls as hip walls, but change the pitch from the default 8 and 12 to 4 and 12. I'm going to set the overhang length to 8 inches instead of 18, and then I'll click OK. Now that the structural portions of our plan have been taken care of, it's time to start focusing on the interior. This includes placing and customizing cabinets, adding items from the library into the plan, and changing materials. When it comes to cabinets, it's recommended to set your cabinet defaults before you start placing them. This way you only have to make minor adjustments to the front faces of the cabinets after they've been placed. The idea is to set as many common settings about the cabinet as you can before you start placing them. Some things to set in the defaults might be countertop thickness, cabinet hardware, and the different materials for the cabinets. To do this, I'll go back to the wrench icon in my toolbar, but first, instead of selecting the cabinet defaults, I'm going to start by selecting the material defaults. This will allow me to set the default material for all of the different cabinet types that I have, my full height cabinets, my wall cabinets, and my base cabinets. When I click on the material defaults option, it brings up a list of all of the different objects that I can set material defaults for. I'll go find the cabinet option and click on select material. In the window that comes up, I'll pick a color from the Benjamin Moore Paint catalog, which is available for download from the 3D library on our website at homedesignersoftware.com. Once I've selected our material, I'll click OK. I'll repeat the process with our cabinet doors and drawers, setting it to be the same material. I'll set my countertop to use the Concrete 2 material. Now that I have my material set for my cabinets, I can expand the cabinets category, then click on Base Cabinets. In the Door/Drawer panel, I can choose the type of front panels I want to use for my cabinets. I'll click on the Library button next to Door Style and choose the Divided Glass Door 3. I'll go through and change the door and drawer handles as well. And once I've updated my defaults for my base cabinet, I can go and change the default settings for my wall and full height cabinets. Once I've set all of my defaults, I'm ready to start placing my cabinets. I'll click on the Cabinet Tools Parent button and then click on my base cabinet tool. When I move my mouse into the drawing area, you'll notice I have a silhouette of the cabinet following my mouse. This silhouette is what the cabinet will look like when I place it. There's a small chevron on the cabinet outline. That chevron is the front face indicator. This tells me what direction the front of the cabinet is facing. Notice as I move closer to a wall, the indicator will shift so it's always pointing out into the room. I'll move my mouse to the position I want the cabinet to be at, making sure the front face indicator is facing the correct direction, and then I'll click to place it. I can then select the cabinet and use the edit handles to resize the cabinet or open it for specification using the Open Object Edit button. This particular cabinet I want to be a drawer base instead of a door and drawer cabinet. To do this, I'll go to the front panel and uncheck the Use Default checkbox. This will unlock the controls to modify the front face of the cabinet. I can click on the different items in the preview on the right-hand side of the dialog box to modify the information. I'll select the door and change it to a drawer by selecting Drawer from the Item Type drop-down menu. Next, I'll click the Add New button to add a new drawer. I'll choose Drawer from the Item Type drop-down menu, and I'll set its height to be 11¼ inches and click OK. Once I click OK, notice how the other drawer in the cabinet automatically resized to adjust for the new drawer I added. I'll click OK to finish updating this cabinet. If I want to create a corner cabinet, I can select the Base Cabinet tool again and move my mouse so the cabinet silhouette is in the corner. Once it's in the corner, if I keep moving my mouse towards the corner, the silhouette will update to become a corner cabinet. I'll click to place the corner cabinet in the plan. I'll go ahead and place the rest of the cabinets. If I want to place a fixture in a cabinet, like a sink for example, I can do a search for a sink in the library browser. If you're not seeing the library browser on your screen, you can go to the View menu and click on Library Browser to bring it up. I'll do a search for sink in the search box. Once I've found a sink I like, I'll click on it once in the library browser. I'll move my mouse to the cabinet I want the sink to be placed in and then click in the middle of the cabinet to place the sink. I can repeat this process for dishwashers, ovens, and any number of items. Items also don't have to be solely placed in cabinets. I want to place a couch in the living room. I'll again use the search box to search for couch. Once I've found the couch I like, I can simply click on the couch in the library browser, then move my mouse into the plan and click to place it. I don't need to drag it from the library, I simply click once on it in the library browser and then click again to place it in the plan. Just as with cabinets, when I move my mouse into the plan, the silhouette of the object will follow my mouse around. And if I want to change the material of the couch, I can use the Material Painter to paint it. The Material Painter only works in 3D views, so I have to have a camera view active in order to use it. For this example, I'll take a dollhouse view of my plan. In my camera view, I'll click on the spray paint icon to find a material to use. Once I've decided on a material, I'll click OK and click on the couch to change it to the new material. If I want to change the material of a bunch of objects all at once, I can change the scope of the Material Painter to affect more than one object. Back in the kitchen, if I want to change the cabinets to use a different material instead of the Benjamin Moore paint color, I can click on the Material Painter, choose a new color, and then click OK. But before I click on the cabinets, down on the Edit toolbar, I want to change the scope of the Material Painter. The C stands for Component Mode, which means just one individual component of that object will be painted. The O stands for Object Mode, where the entire object I click on will be changed to use the new material. The R stands for Room Mode, which is like Object Mode in that it will change the materials for the entire object, but also for every other similar object in the room you click into. F stands for Floor Mode and is exactly like Object Mode, except it will change the materials for every similar object on the entire floor that you're on. P is for Plan Mode, and it's just like Floor Mode, except it changes materials in the entire plan. Thank you for attending our bootcamp webinar. Feel free to use the chat to ask any additional questions you may have. We will be leaving the meeting active for a while so you can get your questions answered. Don't forget, we have several additional training resources available beyond this class. From the built-in help to additional training videos and our online knowledge base articles, the goal of us here at Chief Architect Software is to see you succeed at whatever project it is you're working on. If you're new to Home Designer, you can get started with a free trial version available on our website at homedesignersoftware.com. Thanks again for attending the Home Designer Bootcamp and have a great day.